We're on.
I don't think there was any bills to pull out. I didn't see anything. You don't have to walk in. Okay, it is 6:30. We're going to call this meeting to order because we have roll call, please.
Elthon.
Here.
Nystrom.
Here.
Pritchard.
Here.
Teben.
Here.
Melhouse.
Here. Okay, first item on the agenda is recognition of the visitors hall. Mrs. Tripp.
Yes, so we had several people nominate Brett Collins for our Doors Award. And I know we said we weren't going to surprise anyone, but we are surprising Brett tonight, so we're sorry. But we want you to know that several people nominated you because of your extraordinary impact in both athletic and activities departments. That's something that a lot of school districts feel that is a difficult piece for activities director to make sure that the same level of importance is placed throughout all activities and that you do that. And definitely you were referred to as the hardest working individual in the district by numerous people. So we wanted to award you the Doors Award for doing.
We all
Figured that Tony heard it. See?
Good. We're back gradually in person now. Congratulations.
Oh, it says things at that ballpark a lot.
Yes.
Thank you for all your hard work.
That's really all we want to do.
That's all. No, you don't. I'll get it.
You guys want to know about tickets?
Yeah.
Give your time to you about tickets.
He's ready to talk about ticket spigot.
Oh, the people that sit on the most side of things.
Yeah,
At least we have a 20-minute presentation ready.
that's right.
I can handle
No.
that one if we gotta get going.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, next up is consideration of the agenda. Are there any changes, additions?
No.
I would like to move that we move 311 up to 302. I'd like to be able to get our hardest working member of the district out of here so we can get the rest tonight. Is there any objection to that? Other words, I will entertain a motion for approval.
Second.
Okay, it's a move by Mr. Stevens, seconded by Dr. Nystrom, to approve the agenda as printed with modification of moving 3.11 up to right after 3.01. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, hearing the delegations. Any words of wisdom from over here from the peanut gallery?
I will say one thing. Thank you. Mr. Collins is the only guy I've ever known that has figured out how to put 25 hours into a 24-hour
Yeah.
day.
That's right. Yes.
Okay. Do you have any comments from?
No comments.
Okay, we will move on then to routine business. Is there a motion to approve the routine consent agenda? Comment? It's been moved. Is there a second? Second. Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Stevens, seconded by Mr. Elfin, by Whisker, to approve the consent agenda. Are there any comments, questions, concerns?
Just a comment in regards to the new high school principal, I assume that's pending contract release. I know that's.
Yes, the board, the board meeting for the release of this contract is tomorrow night. So that's why we say pending contract release. There's no anticipated issue with it. Just the timing of our board meetings is one day apart. So.
They don't offer.
Yeah. And that this is not going to, it won't be an issue. It's just a matter of their,
Formality.
yeah, formality, board our board meetings were set up.
Figures much.
The reverse is what we wanted, but yeah.
That's fine.
Mhm.
Okay, any other questions, concerns? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes. Next on the agenda is our insurance renewal. Mrs. Tripa, and
It's
I've asked.
actually going to be 3.11 this time because we changed
No,
the
I said
agenda.
after.
Oh, you after? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought it was going before. Okay, never mind. So we actually have a guest to speak on this issue, yes. So I'm going to go ahead and let Hans, you want to take the floor? That'd be great. And actually, if you could come up here, right in front of this owl, then people who are watching will be able to see and hear you. Fantastic. It might hoot. It might hoot.
For those of you who don't know, this is Mon Spain. He's our insurance agent. And we've asked him to come explain a little bit about our insurance renewal is the minor price increase.
There has been some issues this year. Okay, again, my name's Hans Bain. I own Bain Insurance downtown. I've been in the school insurance agent since, I'm trying to think today, 07 or 06, one of those years. And we write a lot of commercial business around town, so this just kind of comes natural for us. I do want to make a public thank you to our superintendent and Mitch for working with me. Both of them have been very, very diligent in everything they've done on this. We kind of, Julie came in at a difficult time on this insurance program, and they've done a great job of trying to straighten it out. And I think the school board needs to know that. They've spent a lot of time on it. We worked on safety programs. We've had numerous meetings. They've really spent a lot of time on it, and it's going to pay off. I guarantee you it's going to pay off. So, and it already has. Our claims ratio is going down every month. So they're doing a great job. So thank you for your effort. First of all, for those of you that maybe I haven't seen at a board meeting, we continue to have our insurance with EMC. I think this is in your board packets that we submitted. This kind of gives us an overview of what we have right now for insurance. Our insurance package overall is pretty complex. It just keeps growing, and there's new coverages coming on each and every year. And we're through EMC, which is downtown Des Moines. That's the building with the slanted top downtown. And the safety group is written for all the schools in the state of Iowa. Okay, any school in the state of Iowa can have this program. And the vast majority of schools do. There's only 50 schools in the whole state that do not have this. And I'm not sure the exact number of school districts. 325 to 350.
Yeah, roughly. Yeah, just under 350.
Yeah. So the majority of them are with this program. So what's the advantage? The advantage with this program, it has unique features and coverages that a school needs, and they continuously update them. That's one of the updates I'm going to bring up tonight. Every year we have a new update because they do so much research and development on all the school issues from past claims and past issues. So I think they're excellent to deal with. They got great claim service. Although we did have, Mitch and I had a problem with it a year or so ago, and our past administration, we've been working through some of the problems we've had, and I think we're getting through them. Mitch will tell you that, but we kind of inherited some things that have been difficult. So once again, everybody got a copy of the proposal, so you can kind of lead through this. There's a lot in there. One of the issues that I will tell you that's been an upgrade to our contract from last year is the program is going to cover on a replacement cost basis all vehicles that the school district owns that are under 10 years old, which is kind of a neat deal. So it could be a van, it could be a personal auto, it could be anything, but if we hit a deer, we have something happen, and we have a special needs van, it gets damaged, and we need to get a new one, we get replacement costs on that, not actual cash sharing, which is a big advantage for the school district. One of the things I do want to tell the school board is if I went over this whole plan that we have in detail, we'd be here till the day after tomorrow. So I'm going to hit the high points. One of the things that has changed this year is our commercial package, which includes the liability, the property, the auto, the inland marine. That has gone up about 15%. This is primarily due to the derecho claim on the property side. Overall, EMC paid out about $110 million due to that derecho. So there's a long tail on that. We're still not sure what the final tally is going to be, but it's going to be big. So that's going to come back to haunt us for a few years, as it is all school districts. I did check. We're not exclusive to this. There's other schools that are picking it up too. So then another issue that we have this year that we've got to work through is our workers' compensation. We were with EMC, Mitch and I, we've been working through this. Claims issues, I think we're doing pretty good right now.
Yep.
We worked through a lot of big claims. We're really getting toward the end. But what we have to deal with right now is from our claims past, we have what's called an experience modification that everyone is subject to under work comp if you have over $3,750 for a 3-year period. That's more information you need to know. But our experience mod last year was 1.01. Our experience mod this year is 1.53, which anything over 1 would be a surcharge. Okay, this is specific to our account. We can't change it. Wouldn't matter who wrote our insurance nationwide. This experience mod is at our doorstep. We have to deal with it. Okay.
Hans, I'm going to just reiterate also, SFM came and explained to you that experience mod number isn't from this year. It's from previous years. So even though it went up this year, it's not from this year. I just want to make that very clear. Yeah.
Well, we're just catching up from 18 months, 2 years ago, is what the 1.53, and it will take us about 3 years to get out of this, and it will stair step back down.
Right.
So thank you for saying that.
Just wanted to make sure everyone understood that.
She had,
Didn't agree that it would eventually go down.
Yes.
It'll eventually go down.
They'll come back down.
Yeah.
As long as we keep doing these things. Yeah.
And we are, and they have. And I want to make sure the school board understands all the efforts that are going into this. So it is not easy, I can tell you that. It's a team effort, and you got to stay at it year over year in order to get that experience mod down. So it will reduce itself, and we will pay significantly less on our work comp in the future. So the next item I want to speak with briefly is cyber liability. Currently, we have $250,000 in coverage. Mitch and I discussed this, and it was ironic because I came to Mitch and I said, we should raise this $1 million. And Mitch looked at me and said, I think we need to raise this $1 million. So I guess we're all in the same camp immediately. Wasn't it Dun & Brad or one of the rating agencies even recommended to Mitch that we raise that? I'm starting to see a significant amount of activity in cyber liability claims, as we all know. So, yeah. Oh, I'm having it on a smaller scale just locally.
What kind of claims would like DMAC have? Would it be lost wages, or would it be paying someone to unhack you or whatever?
Well, there's several different ways to do it. There's ransomware, where they lock up your system and they demand a certain amount of money as a claim to unlock your system. Okay, that's one. A second one is you'll have a vendor that gets broke into. A vendor will send an anonymous bill to the school or to any one of the departments and demand money. And we'll send it and then find out You're not sending it to who you think you're sending it to. And you may very well indeed owe that money, but you send it to,
So we've already had to deal with that. We've caught it,
yeah.
but they've tried that with Boone.
We
So,
were the fortunate ones here. We were very fortunate, because unfortunately, I gave you several accounts locally that weren't lucky, and they never got the money back. And see, the reason Mitch and I came up with this idea is with the new schools being built, and we're gonna have all sorts of billings coming in from various vendors, some vendors we've never dealt with. I just thought, boy, if we're ever gonna get in a position to get hacked, it's now. Because we got so many activities coming up on the agenda for the next 2 years. And so, but anyway, so we raised that, so we have $1,250,000 now in cyber liability coverage. So,
Can I ask on that, is that enough to some extent? I mean, the only reason I say that is you talk about the amount of money in cyber anymore tax. We hear about more than you don't. But I know $1 million
that's a great,
seems like a lot. We're
that's a great question.
talking about a bond that's going to be $22 million.
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure.
You know, one of the things I'd recommend, and Mitch and I have talked about, and I think Julie's been in on this behind the scenes, and that is our policies within the school board can solve a lot of those problems. I think she's already done. I think that's water over the dam, such as don't change any ACH forms, don't pay anybody ACH, pay it only in check form, make sure you verify who you're sending the money to. It's just a matter of policy from the school. And I think we're well on our way to doing that.
You said that was 1.25 this year. I'm looking on page 4. It says that cyber is 1 million.
This one is the 250,000. That's our base
Yeah,
coverage.
That's 250. And then
This is for the excess million.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you
Okay,
go.
gotcha.
Good question. Good question. Yep. Yep. So that's the only reason for that increase, and I think it's well founded, and it's funny how we both came up with it at the same exact time. So, okay, if you would kind of go to the final summary sheet, and I'll go to the. Oh, one thing I might add, all of our liability coverages fall underneath our umbrella. Okay, so for instance, our linebacker coverage, that's the public official's liability, that's for each one of you. So we have that coverage, then we have our $2 million umbrella, then we have our $15 million shared excess. I was just talking to an attorney down at BMC a couple weeks ago, and they said that we just had the first claim that's ever gone into that, ever. So apparently it's a good thing to have because we're not getting into it very often. So I'm glad we're participating in that because that gives us a grand total of 21 million. So if you lay awake at night when we have these big incidents, we keep thinking we got 21 million. I believe we should have enough, but who knows what enough is? You just never know. So if you go to the premium summary page, what I wanted to point out to the board was what I try and always do year over year is put last year's premium versus this year so you can make a cost comparison. And if you'll notice, there's only 3 or 4 coverages that really had much of an increase. That would be the property, which is cyber liability. The increase is basically on additional coverage, and the work comp. But aside from that, our increases have been very modest. So the one thing I do want to assure the board is that these will go back down. The work comp, after all the work they've been doing here, the administration, it will come back down. So we pay the same base rates in work comp as every school in the state of Iowa. And the only reason we're paying more at this point in time is because of our experience mod. So it will change. It's going to go back down. So
Thank you, Hans.
So the only last thing is, and I will depart, we're working on the builder's risk coverages right now for the new school that's going to be over here, the special needs school. Not special needs, that one.
Homeschool, yeah, homeschool assisted program and teachers. Yep.
We're gonna start working on that, and then this fall in October we'll have the builder's risk ready for that. So if no one has any other questions, that concludes my report.
Any questions for Hans? Thank you for coming in to explain that.
Feel free to call me anytime if you've got issues. Let Julie know and she can get a hold of you. So,
Okay.
Thank you.
very much.
Thanks, Hans.
Any further discussion? Otherwise, I'll have a motion to approve this.
I move to approve the insurance renewal as presented.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the insurance renewal as presented. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed unanimously. Now, tickets, sure.
I think he had to leave, so I can speak to it. So he stayed as long as he could, I think. So what I can speak to is this is an online ticketing system that the conference is going to. So regardless of the location, we would all be utilizing the same ticketing program. And all of the ADs from the conference looked at several different vendors. And so this is the one that they felt would best meet the needs of our conference. And so I would recommend approval of this service so that we can be in agreement with all of our conference schools. It'll be something that people will be able to pay online as well, so without extra fees. So it'll be the same when we get to the fees pricing. It'll be the same whether you were to pay cash here or online. We're really going to encourage people to buy them online.
And would it be our rates that we have?
It's what our rates will be. So what we have proposed later in the agenda is what the cost would be. So yeah.
Several of our rates are set by the conference.
Yep, they are. So.
The auditorium will be numbered and then everything else will be.
But just games in general, they'll be able to get tickets for those without having to come through our normal cash box situation. There will still be the opportunity to do that because not everyone would have the ability to do this, but it would significantly reduce that need. And we're hoping that people will find it to be very convenient. Some of the conference schools piloted this year with COVID and talked about what an advantage it was for them. So that's kind of why the conference decided to go this route, is just the positive feedback they received from their community members. So
Yeah, I got tickets through what we were doing this year. And it was really great because my sister, I just talked about it, was heading to be to California and watch a performance.
yes,
It was very nice.
so that's the ticket spigot.
Any questions?
I love the name.
Is there a motion to approve or assign the ticket service agreement?
I moved to sign the ticket.
Is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Nyström moved and Stephen seconded the motion to approve the ticket service agreement. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Now let's go to the resolution directing the advertising for sale, approving electronic bidding procedures, and approving official statement.
So this is the next step in our the sale of our bonds, which is going to be in July. This is just a resolution from the attorney to authorize the advertisement of the sale, the bidding procedures, and then the official statement, which you guys all received last month. So it's just approving those three steps. alongside of that, we had our standards and poor rating again for the bond, and we are still at an A+. So that gives us better interest rates. So I believe there's a.
They didn't tell us there was
Yeah.
a higher rating.
Yeah.
Yeah, they didn't tell us there was a higher one, but they also didn't say.
They said we were really,
Yeah.
I mean,
They just, yeah, they
Yeah.
just talked about how pleased they were with our rating. So I could
no
ask that
negative
next time,
comments
yeah,
against us.
exactly.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Concern?
Nobody actually go for sale. Nobody locked the rates in.
When we sell them, and that is July. Let me get that date because we have a special meeting that day too.
Yeah.
Let me find that date. Wednesday, July 14th. So we'll have a special meeting at noon over Zoom, and then we'll have our interest rates locked in that day. So
Is there a motion to approve? These two agreements?
I move that we approve the resolution recommending placement for sale of the electronic data secret.
Okay, is there a second? Okay, moved by Ms. Stevens, seconded by Mr. Elton to approve the resolution directing sale of Green Community School District PO Bond 2021 and the POS for board approval. Any further comments, concerns? Hearing none,
Roll
all
call.
those in favor, signify
Roll
by
call.
saying aye.
Roll call.
roll call vote.
Roll call. sorry.
Elfon,
Yes.
Nystrom,
Yes.
Teven,
Yep.
Pritchard,
Yes.
Melhouse.
Yes. Okay, school fees.
Yes, so in your packet, you should see the school fees, both 2021 and 21-22. The difference in the registration fee, we looked at our conference schools and the average is around 67. So that's why that's at 65 to be in alignment. And then when you go down to the Chromebook fees, we spoke with our tech department and tech director Levi Faber and found out the actual costs that it would cost the district. So those are reflective of actual costs if those things go missing or damaged as well. And then the gate tickets you'll see are moving from 5 to 6. That's again set by the conference. So that'll be advantageous to have the new ticketing system because you can either charge that or you can bring $6. It's just easier to charge the 6 instead of having an extra $1. But that will also help with the fees that we do get charged for using the card. And then what are some of the differences? Activity passes, again, looked at conference so that we're in alignment with the rest of the conference. Pretty much any difference you see was to stay in alignment with schools our size in our area. And we have not received any differences in lunches. I am sure that that is due to the fact that they had announced free breakfast and lunch next year for students. Have not heard that we needed to change adult prices. If that occurs, we'll come back to you for that amendment. But at this time, I think we're good keeping the fees where they are. So I'd recommend approval of the document that you have before you. Oh, and lastly, the credit card processing fee, we decided to get rid of that fee. We figured that's just something we need to provide to our community to provide them with that service. So we took that off.
A couple of years ago, we had that discussion, and we were the only school in the conference that had a charge. And we're also switching to a different card processing vendor July 1, so it just makes sense to just wipe it when we change new vendors. So.
Any further discussion, questions? Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the school fees as presented?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Pritchard, secondary by Mr. Stevens to approve the school fees as presented. Anyone want to discuss it now? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next, updated graduation.
So I have an updated list for you because we did have a couple of students that didn't meet the requirements by the time graduation occurred. And then we also had an addition of someone that was not originally on the list. So this list accurately reflects those that met the requirements of graduation. So I would recommend approval of that list for the 2020-2021 school year.
I move we accept the updated graduation.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Ms. Stevens, seconded by Dr. Nystrom, to approve the updated class 2021 graduate. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Employee handbook.
Okay, so I just wanted to walk through some of the changes in the document that you received. Any changes were highlighted. I wanted to look at the compensation for extracurricular duties. In practice, it had changed a while ago that when faculty members worked 2 events, they could receive an activity pass for themselves. If they worked 4 events, then they could get a family pass. And that had not been changed in the employee handbook. And so that change from 3rd to 4 simply is not necessarily a change in practice, but rather making sure that what's in policy is actually following what we practice. I am recommending raising the rate per hour for activities from, I believe they receive $11 per hour now to $13 per hour, hoping that that will, I don't know if it'll help gain more volunteers, but, and I say volunteers, they get paid to do it, but hoping that that will help entice some people to work more events. Again, the part that's crossed out, from my understanding, has not been what's been practiced in the last several years. So it's not necessarily a change. The change is from 11 to 13 an hour that I'm recommending. Then when we go to time clock procedures, this is something that is just part of our procedures that we are going to be utilizing. The time clock, it will be completely digital next year. So we will be approving them digitally, administratively. And this is meant to be procedures if there is a pattern of behavior where they are not utilizing time clock, because obviously we need that to know what to pay them. So this is for anyone who is habitually missing the time clock or not utilizing the time clock as directed. So the concept of a verbal warning, written warning, and then termination. Again, this isn't for an occasional oops, like I forgot because I don't know, maybe you got busy working with a student and so you weren't able to clock out for lunch like you had meant to. That's not what this is about. What this is meant to be is for those situations where we have habitual offenders, and allows us to make sure that everyone understands what the expectation is. So that was simply putting into writing what our practice will be. We have a change in the filing of college credits for just that we needed to be the last Friday in September with the timing of our board meeting. Sometimes we want to make sure all of the teachers that need to move lanes for their college credits can get that. So that's just making it more doable with some of the timing of grades and when they receive them and when they turn them in. Let's see,
That's fine, I haven't changed the color on it.
that's, yeah, I'm trying to find it. Background checks, just made sure we added something that we practice anyway, just that an employee working for the district's extended preschool program, that they require a background check also through Department of Human Services. So again, that wasn't listed, but it's something we do. Try and find all the other ones. The changes that I'm recommending are really just making sure that we're following what, for the most part. Here's one with support staff that's different, that I'm changing the recommendation from the probationary time for new support staff employees from 90 to 120 days. We feel that that would give us a better opportunity to see how they're performing before we move them from probationary to more permanent status. That's the change that I'm recommending. In job classification, under associates in our UE agreement, it's listed as reading associates and special education / supervisor associates. Feel that our agreement should match our handbook. We shouldn't have different language. So that's what that recommendation is for. The license and support staff employees, the Power School Teach Iowa website, they changed the website now. It used to be a different website. So we just have it reflecting what it's called. Let's see. Hit big things. Meals and lodging, we upped the reimbursement prices for the daily and breakfast, lunch, and dinner to be reflective of what current practices are. So you utilize which one do you look at to set this, Mitch?
The federal,
The federal.
and then this is the numbers on amounts on our board policy as well.
Yeah. So I'm just trying to make sure that that's all in alignment. Let's see if there's anything else. Don't remember anything else that's big. The only other thing I would point out is under the employee code of conduct. I don't have changes on that here simply because I think that's something I would like to work with staff on as we make that updated. It's the same employee code of conduct that's been there since 2012. I think it's worth looking at again. So that'll be something that I think we should look at over the course of the year. And I would like to do that collaboratively with administration and staff. So that's just know that if I come back at another board meeting, that's why. It's just, I think it's time to update. It's almost 10 years. So we need to look at that again. But oh, the DOT, the physical examination, district will pay for the DOT physical. It used to be a lot more specific. Quite frankly, what it boils down to is we just want to pay for the physicals so that we can help have people do that. Yeah, it was. And the other language changes that we had here were the changes that we had with our association and UE with regard to like our leaves with family and illness. If you recall, we put that together. We tried to keep those, you know, in alignment again with the changes with the agreements. So I think those were the major pieces, unless Mitch, you can think of something else.
That's it.
I think those were the changes. Yep. Correct. Yeah, we wanted to update so that, again, you always want your practices and your policies to match. So trying to make sure that that's all in alignment.
Verifying that you made sure that discrimination is
It should match what we had in our policy because we've made sure that matches. So that should be the same. Let me know if you think it's not, because then I can, because I think it is, but you can make sure it's updated.
Question for Mitch. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the 2021-2022 employee handbook as presented? Is there a second? Second. Okay, moved by Mr. Alvin, seconded by Mr. Pritchard to approve the 2021-2022 employee handbook. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Someone asked me a question about it was insurance reimbursement. You know, a lot of people get insurance that are support staff people.
We follow the ACA guidelines if they would qualify for insurance or not.
Like I put the answer and say no.
Yeah, so ACA has a fairly complicated formula that we have to follow with that. And it really, unfortunately, can be very dependent upon how many school days we have in the month, in a week, how many hours they might work. That's why it tends to be beneficial to our support staff when we don't have a day where they, like a week where they work for a partial day and that's it for that week. That actually hurts their average. So it's better to have them like try to do their extra time in a week that's already working, if that makes sense.
I think a lot of
Yeah,
Yeah.
along with the ACA.
Yeah.
Our measurement period ended May 31st, so there were some changes.
2013, when I first came on.
Mhm.
The ACA, people were upset. Upset the school board. Had no control over that.
Yeah, the ACA is a federal
Yeah.
mandate, so we just follow what they tell us to do.
Any further questions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passed unanimously. Next is the IASB priorities.
So this month is the month that you get to discuss any of the priorities or legislative or the summaries. And then next month, you'll approve your legislative priorities. So on your documents, you have the 2021 legislative resolutions that IASB put out along with the summaries. So I guess really this month, it's a matter of if you have questions about what your task will be over the next month to look at those, just to become familiar with the different areas that we can highlight, because next month we'll need to determine which ones we as a district feel should be prioritized. Then we will share that with the Iowa Association of School Boards, so that when we go to, we might actually get a live in-person school board association conference. Last year, Pat was the representative that represented our district with legislative priorities, but that's what that purpose is so that across the state, every district has the opportunity to weigh in on what they think the priorities should be.
I observed the webinar with Margaret.
Buckton, yep.
Presented. It was so dense. She's now got a publication.
Yeah. Yes, she does.
But it was just IASB. Summary of what happened out there. It was interesting. But very long.
Yes.
Yeah, and really better. Yeah, and they went through everything. So, but it's on the website.
Yeah. But between now and next board meeting, we I'd ask that you look through those and see which ones you would like to, if you kind of have your, we come up with 5, right? Or
Yes.
4, 5. We have to come up, is it 4 or 5? Do you remember? It's 4 or 5.
4.
We have to come up with 4. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
And
So if you come with your top 4, then we'll see where we land, I suppose. And
we'll see what, they're actually not regular.
4 priorities.
thank you. They should be there, both of them. Yeah. Okay. But just take some time over the next month and kind of scan, see which ones you think rise to the top for our district, and we'll make that decision next month.
Sounds good. Any questions about your assignment? Okay. Next is the SAI mentoring program.
So this is actually a requirement of districts when you have an administrator that may be new to a principalship or superintendency or whatever it may be administratively. So this shouldn't be new to you, that you are required to have a mentoring program for them, and SAI will provide that. So this is an agreement with the School Administrators of Iowa to enter into the Administrator Mentoring and Induction Program. As an activities director, John Johnson was not required to go through this program. So, correct. So I think it's extremely beneficial, in addition to the fact that it's a legal requirement of us as a district, but it's an amazing mentoring program where they will provide a new administrator with a mentor that is in a similar size district somewhere in the area, so that they have someone outside of the district to kind of bounce ideas off of, gain some insight and support. And so They actually start that programming in July with new high school principals, and then it will run the course of the year. So I usually recommend that we do this every year, regardless of whether we think we're going to have a new administrator. That way, if something were to happen, we would have that agreement in place. But we know that this is something we'll need, so I'd recommend approval so that John can participate in this program.
Any questions? Hearing none, is there a motion?
I move to approve the SAR mentoring program.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Mr. Stevens, seconded by Dr. Nyström to approve the SAI mentoring program. Any questions? Hearing no further questions, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next is the YSS mentoring program.
So I simply would recommend approval of the continuation of the YSS mentoring program. There's no price change from last year at all. So we would like to be able to continue with that program.
Is there any questions? Did I have a motion? Is there a second? Second. It has been moved by Dr. Nyström, seconded by Mr. Pritchard to approve the YSS mentoring for fiscal year 22. All in favor, signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Next, bread and milk bids.
So in your documents, you'll see the bids that we received for both bread and milk, along with Director Lori King's recommendation, and I would support recommendations Lori is bringing to the board for the bread bids. I believe she is recommending that we continue with Rotella. It is higher, but we have an established working relationship, and it's well received by the students. Is one of the reasons she would like to stick with that particular bread bid. And then with the milk bid, the recommendation that we accept Kemp's bid. And it is actually the lower bid compared to Anderson Erickson. So those are the, I would recommend that we take the recommendation from our food service director.
Yes.
And the $476 difference, I believe that's over. Under $120,000, so it's $120,000 bid.
Mhm.
There's only $460 difference.
Correct.
Not significant enough, I don't think, by
I think the biggest thing is they will deliver 4 days a week compared to 2 days a week.
that could
Yeah.
be for $460.
Mhm. So I think that's one of the main reasons, in addition to the fact that the students will eat it. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I just want to make sure we have
Yes.
on record
Exactly.
why they're
Mhm.
saying yes.
Correct.
Thank you.
I move to accept the 21-22 version of it.
Is there a second? Been moved by Mr. Stevens, seconded by Mr. Elfin to approve the bread and milk bid 2021-2022 as presented. Any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. 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 Opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Approval of computer bids.
So, yes, so you'll see we have 2 bids for some new computers that needed to be updated. We would recommend that the Blue Ally bid for $73,080 be the bid that we go with. I believe that's the lower quote.
Yes.
Yeah. So,
This is a company that we bought our Chromebooks from our annual purchase, and they've been good to work with. They come and unbox them, and then they get them going, and then they take could take the trash, so it worked out pretty well.
Little thing,
Yeah.
It is.
right? Goes a long way sometimes.
Saves a
It
lot of
does.
time.
And we've gone with SHI sometimes for other things, but in this particular bid, Blue Ally is someone we'd like to go with. And it's the lower bid.
Any questions?
That's-
Hearing none, is there a motion to approve Blue Ally bid?
Move to approve Blue Ally Tech bid.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Pritchard, seconded by Dr. Nystrom to approve the Blue Ally bid check. June 2021 of $33,080.
Only thing I'll add is that this is going to be paid for with ESSER 2 funds. So
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, motion passes unanimously. Next up is our Sombinets for the last week. That is the 400 series board policy.
So again, a lot of this is just matching our policies with practices as well as, but the one thing that I will highlight is which one is it?
Which one?
I wanted to highlight
Oh,
the
teacher?
the
The license resolution?
licensed employees with regard to contracts. And that's
Resolution.
403, I'm trying to remember which one it is, 403,
4071.
4071. All the numbers starting to run together, if you can bring that up.
Yep.
So when in 407.1, I'm making a recommendation that if staff have signed their contracts and it's before July 1, or licensed employees, yes, I'll make sure they know this is for licensed employees. So for example, a teacher signs their contract. If they're asking to be released from the contract prior to July 1, that they would pay the district $1,000 to get out of their contract. And if it's after July 1, that it would be $1,500. This is a practice that's been adopted by many school districts, partially because licensed staff are at a premium. And when we have signed contracts, we like to know that we've got them on staff and that that's something we would not have to worry about needing to fill a position once contracts have been signed. So I'm recommending that we add that to our board policy as it is in many districts. Not all, but a lot of districts have that contingency on there. So.
That's correct.
It's
Yeah.
not read anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
14,411.
Yeah. Okay. Which one was it? I'm sorry, so I can go to it.
40114? Here we go.
Yes. There were two areas where it was removed. And where that came from was Bog had shared with us his recommendations from a neighboring district as to what he thought would be advantageous for our district. So that's where that was coming from. So, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Yep. Yes, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
It
We
takes a while,
count
doesn't
on
it?
that. We count on that. We appreciate that very much.
Wait till the 500.
If you also noticed, I don't know if you noticed, but there were several that we said we didn't feel we needed that said removed. And the reason those were there were they were either repetitive, where there were other policies that covered that topic, or and all of those that were listed under remove were items that Iowa Association of School Boards did not have a recommendation to have those included. So that's why those were recommended to be removed. Again, either they were located elsewhere. I think it was confusing where we had harassment in 2 places in our board policies. 104 covers the harassment policy, and having it in 2 places was confusing. So that's why that one's listed as being removed, because we also have a complaint form in 104. So just trying to clean it up a little bit. And again, this is only the first reading. So if there are other things that you come across, we'll be doing a second reading next month.
Okay, any other comments, concerns? Hearing none. Is there a motion to approve first reading of the 400 series board policy?
I move to approve the first reading of the 400 series board policy.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Ms. Stevens, seconded by Dr. Nyström, to approve the first reading of the 400 series board policy. Do I hear any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Superintendent's report.
So the first thing I wanted to share is that as we move forward, hopefully out of COVID, we're hoping, we will continue to stream, and we'll be utilizing a different piece of technology to hopefully increase the ability to hear for those that join virtually. But for our work sessions, they will not be streamed, because the intent behind the work sessions are that they're meant to be dialogue and less formal in nature. So there's a board work session after this meeting. And so that's something people are still, I want the public to know that they're still welcome to attend, but work sessions do not have action items on them, and they're meant to be a dialogue between the board and whatever the topic may be. So those will not be streamed, and that will be starting tonight. So I just wanted to make that clear to everyone, so that anyone who wants to participate by coming and listening to the board work session, that you know you need to actually come to the meeting location for the work sessions.
They're publicly posted.
They're publicly posted like everything else, yes. So you'll know when those take place, so you'll have an opportunity to do that. We will continue to live stream the rest of the meetings, though. I think that that's something that has been a blessing through this process, so we will continue to do that. The other piece that I wanted to share with the board is how advantageous those 2 days that you provided our staff for professional development and allowed us to forgive 2 snow days, just how valuable that was to our buildings and our staff to have that time to not only have reflection upon the past year, but plan for the next year. I know we just have Scott here, and he can speak to what middle school was able to do, but I think those agendas were very full with what I think the staff would describe as meaningful professional development, some items that they felt needed to take place and would not have been able to occur without that. So just a thank you to the board for allowing that to happen this spring, because that was very, very helpful, and it provided us the opportunity to let people go on their breaks and have some comfort in knowing what was yet to come, have some time to process some items. An example would be the numeracy project that was is something that teachers in K-8 and special education K-12 are implementing. They had the opportunity to work in their like groups and have that professional development and kind of plan for what's going to happen. So in a year of unpredictability, having some predictability, I think, was welcomed. So I just, speaking for the staff, thank you very much for that.
It was really well received. I was impressed how engaged everyone was. You know, sometimes you get to the end, you're like, oh, the kids are gone, why do we have to be here? Every meeting that I was in, everything that took place, everybody was engaged, everybody appreciated the time. And it allowed us really, in a year of, we were talking earlier So just the way that we structured things and changed some things really gave us some good perspective to some things that we actually changed that we are going to keep in place because they worked so well within the structure. So we were able to, as we're getting ready to look at our SRG and proficiency scales, we've been working with the AEA all year long. And we have some groups that are piloting that next year with reading and language arts. And so we've had somebody from the AEA coming in and working with that. We were able to prepare for our math and reading lab classes that we're re-implementing for next year to get to work with that. Science, just a couple days before that, I think the last board meeting, we approved new curriculum resources, and they had just gotten those within days before that. So the science department was able to go through those materials and get a lot of planning done. Like Ms. Trevor said, we had worked with the Numeracy project and had district-wide everybody in the STEM room working with that, and had some good vertical planning with our social studies, health classes, our exploratories, had a retirement celebration, ate lots of food, had some breakfast, had some lunch, got in a quick team building activity, and just had a great send off to be able to celebrate the year. We had done a lot of surveys kind of going into the end of the year with some of our work that we're working on with Marzano and different things like that. So we were able to share the feedback with our staff of the information that they provided to kind of go our strengths and areas that they said, hey, here's an area we can improve on. So they felt like they had some say going into that planning for next year. So as crazy or not as the year was, it was a really good ending to the year, and we really appreciate those 2 days. It was packed with a lot of activities. I know every administrator would say they had similar schedules with what they were able to accomplish. So thank you for giving those days and for allowing us that planning time. It was very meaningful.
I'd forgotten about the presenters made a lot of comments about how engaged everyone was. They could not believe how engaged. So thank you for bringing that up. Yeah.
Well, I think it was so crushing for the kids to be done.
Yes.
And then the back knowing.
I had a lot of kids here. Graduated done and I have which main school district. They were in school all last week. And their parents, kids were in camp.
Yeah.
Anything else?
That's all I have to.
Thank you very much. Anything else to go to the order? Otherwise, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment of this regular meeting. Move to adjourn. Second. Objection moved by Mr. Pritchard, secondary by Mr. Elton to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye.